We're off to the races. So we're going to look quick at the one-point linear perspective of this street. Before I do the demo, you guys have that checklist, correct? So we have 3 buildings with alleyways between them. We have 3 buildings with no alleyways between them. We have a curved door, a sign with letters, 1 building that runs off the top of the page, 1 door facing the viewer, bricks that wrap around 1 building, 1 garage door, 1 building with 2 levels, a sidewalk with horizontal cracks, and a road intersection or turn. A road intersection where 2 roads intersect, or a turn in the road. So that's a pretty hefty checklist, yes? We'll go through it, and you will have the demo to go from. It'll probably be in a couple parts. All right, so it's the same as like the last time. You're going to want to find the center of your page. So again, I'm just matching up the corners. You can be doing this along. This is where I'm just going to use the parallel glider to make sure my horizon line is parallel. Where all those lines meet, that will be my vanishing point. All right, now we see that I've got the 4 orthogonals, correct? Coming from the vanishing point, we've got our horizon line, our vanishing point, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 orthogonals. Now, I'm just going to go in afterwards and give myself some parallel lines that are vertical. Using the parallel glider, let me make sure it is on the paper so I have the exact same friction. And I'm just going to roll some vertical lines. Then I'm going to do that from the other side. So I'm going to turn my paper upside down and do it going from the other side. I'm looking at each one of these as a possible building. Can you see that? And as it goes back into space. Same along with the other side. So let's say that I want to do my 3 buildings with the alleys. I'm going to look at this being 1 building. I'm going to say this is going to be 2 building, and then this is going to be 3 building. Now what I'm going to have to do is add another line. And I'm going to actually move this line here. I'm going to do another orthogonal. Here. And there. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are doing pretty good. Middle thumb or thumbs down. Okay. So do you see where the buildings are starting to form? I've got a building here, building here, building here. Now I can change the different sizes. I'm now going to bring in some verticals. Or I'm sorry, not verticals, horizontals. Now in bringing in those horizontals, I'm going to create those alleys. Now, I'm also going to be doing horizontals here for the sidewalk. Do you see that? And they're going to get closer together the closer I get to my vanishing point, because they're going to be going back into space. But I need to do a horizontal right here where these two lines meet, because that's going to create the face of this building. Now I've got an alleyway. Do you see the alleyway? See how you could almost walk between those two buildings? Building 1 and building 2? Do you see that? And it's because I made that where these two lines met, I made that horizontal. That created the alleyway. I'm going to do the same there. Now do you see how I have a space between each one of those buildings? Give me a thumbs up if you see if you see the space between this building and this building and this building and this building. Do you see how there's a place to where you can walk between? That's what it's meant by an alleyway. All right, and I can go ahead and add more orthogonals. Now I'm doing these orthogonals here as kind of a placement. Do you see how it's kind of gridding out the buildings over here? I'm giving myself kind of a guide. Now I'm only going to do it now on these faces here of the building. So I'm doing this to kind of give myself a guide as to, all right, I know that there's going to be a line in between here. I know there's going to be a line in between here. Because remember, these orthogonals go in a 360-degree radius around your vanishing point. All right? So now we have our 3 buildings and our 3 alleyways. Now, it says what? One of those buildings have to go off the page? On the checklist? Yes. Doesn't it make sense to have this one go off the page? Bam, problem solved. Now what I can do is I can add then details to it. I can bring down more vertical lines. And then I'm going to create like the windows. Make sure everything is windows go off the page. And it's these little bits of details that you're now adding. You're constructing these buildings. They started out as rectangular prisms. I'm just cleaning up my lines because it wasn't totally on my vanishing point. Now, what I can do here is then build a storefront. I can then put windows. Making sure I'm on the vanishing point. I could even put a doorway. It helps if I'm on the paper. So let's say I want to put a doorway here. Now I'm starting to build a doorway and a window. Now the door I'm going to have set in, so I'm going to do another orthogonal right there. Now do you see how I have a doorway? Build a frame around this window. I keep checking because the parallel glider does slide. So I want to keep checking my orthogonals to make sure that they're correct. I'm just building this window frame, and it's smaller than the interior because I'm creating a whole street scene here. So I'm adding more and more details, and I'm starting with each building and going from there and building them up. How many of you see the door and how it's recessed? Can you see that? All I'm doing is adding more orthogonals, more vertical parallels, more horizontal parallels. So these are like those city windows, you know, like in a skyscraper, how they have the big tall windows or glass. Oftentimes they've got a storefront down in the front, you know, at the bottom. And let's say that I have to have what else on that checklist? Brick building that wraps around. So I could sit here, I could put another door here if I wanted, a door to this building. And let's say that this building goes to here. So I'm going to bring this down. See where that orthogonal that I made connected with that vertical? That's where I bring that horizontal. Now that's the top of this building. So now I'm going to look at this building here. So now I can take Do you see how I have two buildings now? Building one, building two. Do you see how I have the front facing face here, like the hall in the room, and then the one side, the one face going into perspective? Do you guys see that? I'm going to add a few more orthogonals, everyone's favorite word. I'm going to build a bit of a ledge there, and then I think I'm going to change my orthogonals here because I want to do kind of regular windows. Go ahead and sharpen your pencil. Make sure I have my so I'm going to do let's see if I did this right. So what I'm doing is I'm planning in my windows for this. I don't like the placement, so I'm going to erase it. Notice that I'm going light. I'm going light because I know I'm going to be erasing a lot of construction lines. So I'm going to bring this to here. There we go. Now I'm going to bring a line there. What I'm doing here is I'm constructing windows. Do you see how I'm constructing the windows? I'm using verticals that are parallel, and then I'm using orthogonals to construct the individual windows. Constantly checking my vanishing point and placement. Now you can be as exact as doing measurements to make certain that the distance between all of it is the same. I'm just giving you how to do the proper placement in using your vanishing point, your orthogonals, your verticals, and your horizontal parallels. I don't like that. I want to go further down. Up there. So I'm going to go down, start to clean it up. So now I'm starting to build the buildings. I'm going to pause there for a second and come around and look quick. A lot of moving parts, isn't there? Do you see how it's easier if you do the parallel verticals and the parallel horizontals? You're almost creating a grid. Now, if you notice, I'm going back and I'm matching up these lines because most storefronts line up. Their doorways are the same size. As I look at it now, this doorway here would only be about that tall. And these lines would wrap around the building here this way. Bless you. And I can go in and I can add things to make the, not parallel, so that's a problem. Little muddy here. Let me get that cleaned up. What I'm doing here is I'm building the windows. Back to the orthogonals there. Then I'm going to use, I could eyeball it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put partitions in the windows. I can actually follow that there, that there. Do all of the lines going across, because what I'm doing is I'm now creating the window frames. So as you can see, I'm starting to build these windows individually, painstakingly, laboriously. It's a lot of work, isn't it? All of it is going back to my vanishing point. All of those orthogonals will go back to that vanishing point. All right? I can adjust all of them. If something looks out of scale, notice I've changed things. We will continue this tomorrow. We'll probably rewatch this video, and then the next day I will continue on. Give me a thumbs up if you're good so far, middle thumb, or thumbs down. It's all right if your thumb is down. We'll get you there.